everybody! Welcome to the Fandom Post Radio Podcast. I am your engineer, Kate, and joining me this week is Kestrel.
Yo.
And Kane.
Hello.
And we are here to talk about the summer 2024 anime season, because that is why we are here. It's been a minute again, and another con has happened again. And Kestrel was at that con again, but we've had some big news that hasn't been con related, so we will be getting to that. So yeah, Kestrel, news.
But first, news that is con related.
Make it spicy.
This is all good news first. So yeah, Otakon happened. Unlike AX and Anime NYC, it's not like the big industry con, so Sony doesn't give a shit about it. But it is the indie darling con, and all the old taku like to go there and catch up on stuff. So that is where Discotheque and now the new Anime Go under Media OCD, which is Justin Fakes' company, who also does all the discs for Discotheque. That's where they announce all their stuff. So we had 2 back-to-back panels of, Justin on both and others on the Discotheque one, and we got a bunch of announcements. First was the Anime Go panel, and these are kind of the first new license announcements for the new Anime Go, basically. And they are Time of Eve, which has been released in a couple forms over the years. Never really followed the normal licensing kind of pattern. It was kind of the Japanese team working closely with, some small partners in the US to bring it out. So you had the original ONA series sold on Right Stuff, and then you had a Kickstarter for the movie compilation, which I think must have had a regular release after that, but it was all very, small company, and it's been out of print for a while, I guess. So, yeah, we've got a new complete collection with both cuts of the franchise on one disc, as well as Yoshioda's previous work and all the previous extras, maybe some new extras as well. So that is going to come out from Anime Go this December. And then their other announcement was Full Moon o Sagashite, which was released by Viz back in the day, and I think partially dubbed, and then they gave up, and then I think they gave up maybe on releasing it too, as Viz likes to do. So yeah, we're getting those two from Anime Go, the new Anime Go.
Did all the old heads there start throwing out their backs and everything when these were announced?
I mean, they're not that old compared to a lot of the Discotheque licenses. These are both from the 21st century at least. Full Moon o Sagashite, I think early 2000s, Time of Eve late 2000s. Time of Eve was within the time frame that I remember watching the simulcast being released on Crunchyroll. So that still means it's, 15 plus years old, but not the oldest thing. And unfortunately, that autograph sketch that I was getting from Hiroshi Nagahama, took 6 hours of standing in line. So, which is funny, because, if I had gotten there 5 minutes earlier and been in the front of the line, then I would have, waited for 5 hours less and gotten a sketch with 5 to 10 times more detail. So unfortunate that morning didn't go as ideally as it could have. But yeah, I'll try to be first in line the next time he's at a con. But anyway, so yeah, that sketch that I got from him that I guess has gone around Twitter a bunch. It's got 26,500 likes or views now.
Whoa.
Yeah. But yeah, that took me up until halfway through the Anime Go panel. So I wasn't actually there for the announcement, so I didn't see the reaction. I just made it for the Q&A, which was very good. A lot of good questions, good answers, good conversations there. But yeah, I was not actually at the panel for the announcements. But I do love Time of Eve, and I have the original ONA Blu-ray, and I backed the Kickstarter at the highest tier, so I have that movie Blu-ray as well. And I might triple dip for Justin's release if I'm feeling generous.
You're gonna get it. Please tell me you at least had like your good shoes on, your good line shoes on.
I mean, I only own one pair of shoes at any given time.
Oof.
What? How?
Yeah. Kate and I are on the same page on this one. Woo.
You know what I should get, and I think that I should get it every time I go to a convention and I see people with them in line, is these like collapsible stool things. So they just like collapse into a little disc, and you just pull them out and they turn into a stool. That would make a lot of sense for all the multi-hour lines that I end up in.
They let them bring those into the con?
Yeah. They easily fit in bags. They're just little pieces of plastic.
I know. Well, sometimes, I don't know.
Yeah.
Security's weird.
It's all just
That makes
security
sense.
theater.
I mean, the first place my mind went to actually when you said the thing I should bring, and I was gonna say like icy hot wraps because that's what I do.
No, I mean, one, in this particular situation, the staff was really cool, and I was like, yo, I was planning to go to a panel in the next like hour. I don't think I'm gonna get up to the autograph in that time. Can I just leave and come back to my spot? And they're like, yeah, whatever, it's not moving. So that was awesome that they let me do that. And because of that, I was sitting in a proper chair for an hour and a half, and then booked it back down there. So it was only like a few hours of standing in line, and I probably sat on the floor for part of that, and then a few hours of sitting in a panel, and then another few hours of back in line. So not too bad.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet, sweet relief.
Yeah, anyway. So then there was the discotheque panel, and as they had been teasing leading up to it, well, actually, only half of it actually fit in the panel, which they knew was going to be the case, because they always go way over the hour that they're given. Apparently, Otakon will not give them more than an hour. They won't give anyone more than an hour. And so they, this time, actually planned appropriately and only announced an hour's worth of stuff there, and then had a live stream going on where it was kind of announcing the same stuff they were already announcing at Otakon for everyone else, and then once those ended, then they announced everything that wouldn't fit in that time. So anyway, all said, they announced 25 things during this night. So I guess I'll just like quickly read them all off, and if anyone cares about any of it, then they can talk about it after the fact. So let's see, what are we getting? We got a bunch of tokusatsu shit. Does anyone care about anything tokusatsu, or can I just skip all that?
You can
You
probably
can
skip
skip
all
it.
that.
All right. So they announced Lupin the Third Italian game, which is the TV special related to the Lupin the Third Part 4 TV series. And notably, this means that they have licensed pretty much everything Lupin the Third. And they also tease that there is another Lupin announcement coming in the future. We've got Space Pirate Captain Harlock getting a Blu-ray and HD upscale, the same one that was used in Japan. Also, HD transfer for the original Mamoru Oshii OVA Dalos. It's getting released on Blu-ray. Giant Gorg, also new HD remaster getting released on Blu-ray. Let's see, we got Space Musketeer Bismarck coming to HD Blu-ray. Let's see, more tokusatsu. So they released Chie the Brat recently, which was an Isao Takahata TV series that I think was later turned into a film or vice versa. Now they've got the second series of that, which Takahata did not work on. So that's come in. GTO, they released on DVD like 10-ish years ago. It's still not really HD worthy, but they are giving it an SD on Blu-ray release, which is going to be a little bit cleaned up. So slight upgrade there. Digimon Adventure 02, they already had the English dub release. Now they have the Japanese release of that as well, with all the amazing Astro Res restoration on that. Next installment of Nanoha Strikers is coming out. I think they've now reached the point that no one else has ever released these seasons, so this is going to be the first time for this one. Everyone's favorite, Kiss Sis. Apparently they had just released the OVA in the past. Now they are bringing out the TV series.
Kestrel over here burying the lead in the beginning. You should have led with this.
Oh,
I forgot that was a thing that existed until you brought it up. It's like, oh no.
Then we've got the Professor Layton anime film, Professor Layton and the Eternal Diva, is coming out on Blu-ray. Viz had released it on DVD only, even though it is an HD native film. Their big final announcement for the actual convention panel was Kite. And this includes the full uncut hentai version of Kite, as well as the standard, R-rated cut that had been released separately in the US prior, and an international, also R-rated cut, which had been released a bunch of other places, but not in the US. And so they are not separating it at all. All three of them are on one disc. It's called the Kite Integral version. And let's see. We've got Humanoid Monster Bem. It's getting remastered for Blu-ray. First time that's been released outside or in North America. Gonagai anime Groiser Z. That's going to be SD Blu-ray. The live-action Dororo film is getting a release on Blu-ray. Apparently, Universal Pictures had released it on DVD back in the day. And also, there is apparently a live-action Ouran High School Host Club TV drama, which they did not get, that has a film follow-up, which they did get. So they are releasing that. I guess they just assume that everyone has read or watched the manga or anime at this point, and they know the story well enough that they can just grab this on its own. And then some of the previous stuff they had announced, the Reborn special fan disc is getting released in September. Like half the stuff they announced, even brand new licenses, are for September, and they all went up for pre-order like right after, a few days after the panel. So lots of stuff you can order now. Let's see, there's some more live action, some more tokusatsu, lots more of all that stuff. And, oh yeah, MXC. Did any of you guys watch MXC?
Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
It was the only reason to watch anything on Spike for
TV.
a long time.
Hell yeah.
But between that and reruns of Cops.
Yeah, that's right.
That was fucking it on that channel. But no, Emily and I both have a very, very large soft spot for MXC.
Yep. Me too. Well, shockingly enough, Discotek has MXC.
Nice.
Which would be very shocking to me if it weren't for the fact that the guy who did the subtitles for it was doing them at my house during AX. So yeah, that's a crazy license. Look forward to that. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's pretty much it for Discotek's licenses. So if anyone has any thoughts on any of those.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the highlight is definitely like Dalos, if not because it is truly good. It's not like an amazing piece of work, but it's one of those ones where if you care about the like history of anime in the industry, Dalos is super duper important because it is considered like the first OVA.
Right.
So it has, some prescience there that is really cool, and to be able to watch it on Blu-ray and in 1080p is really saying a privilege is dumb because it is a product you buy at the end of the day, but it's still really cool because the only way for a while you could watch it and the way I watched it was just like YouTube rips for a little while because it was just in licensing hell. But I would definitely recommend anybody who likes old sci-fi, because it's a solid old sci-fi, but it's just a really cool thing. It's Mamoru Oshii, and it's short. It's like 4 episodes, I think. So you're not even really in it for an exceedingly long time to kind of get the experience. And then if you didn't like it, worst case, now you got that feather in your cap for, I watched / own the original OVA, and you can hold that over your friends' heads. But that and the GTO thing, no. I haven't watched GTO. It's on my list of older ones to watch, but I do know that it is pretty well beloved.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be a good follow-up to Hajime no Ippo. You're getting through all the great early 2000s classics.
I'm still shocked when you told me that Hajime no Ippo is from 2001.
Yeah, I think both of those series actually were the year 2000. Which, I mean,
from what I've seen of like screenshots and things of GTO, I would definitely believe GTO is from the early 2000s. But Hajime Ippo just seems to take place in the 80s.
I mean, I think the manga maybe started in the late 80s or so. But aesthetically, I think they both look definitely still 90s.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It wasn't until like a few years later that the stuff started switching over to digital and everything started looking totally different. So yeah, they both definitely still look like they could easily be 10 years older.
Yep, and as you said for GTO, I've heard that parroted in a few places. Like the SD on BD is a weird format, but there can be some slight visual improvements and sound improvements because of the greater headroom for bitrate.
Mm-hmm.
So you can basically extend that 480p like as long as it will go, rather than having to like crunch it even more to fit on a DVD. So you do get to at least see it in the nicest possible way. Now, is it gonna really look all that better than the DVDs? Not really, but if you don't own it, and I don't know how much it will cost, that's going to be the way to own it. And then they can also just fit a shitload of episodes on a disc. So you can have all of like 43 probably on like 2 or 3 discs or something crazy like that.
Yeah. And I will say, if anyone wants to go back and listen to our episode where I had Justin Savakis on, I asked him specifically, like, what are all the benefits of SDBD over DVD? And he had them ready. He kind of gave all the bullet points, and that was really informative. So yeah, definitely going to be an upgrade. The things that they singled out were, let's see, we fixed the one part in the dub where the audio drops out with somewhat less janky audio. So that was like the one bug that the DVD release had. And yeah, they said that, kind of what you were just saying, there's just a little more room for, slightly cleaner video and audio, even if it's not getting above 480p. And the subtitles, they're going to be a lot better. They're going to be a lot sharper. DVD subtitles are kind of trash. So
yeah, like if you have the source, you can ease up on the compression because you're going to have so much room on that disc to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
So that'll be really
yeah,
cool.
That is the one thing that I did immediately buy, even though when they started playing the opening, I knew it from the first frame. And I was like, oh man, is it finally getting HD? Because I've been waiting 10 years for that. But no, sadly, the materials just are not ever going to look much better. So this is the best we can hope for, and that's fine, I guess, for now.
Yeah, because I think, what's another one that I think is still stuck on SD? Is Kino still SD on BD?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so.
Because last I looked, it was.
Yeah.
Because there's still a lot of really great shows out there. Yeah, that I don't know if this is the best that can really be done because of the expense of actually, doing all that, or I don't have my finger on the pulse for that kind of thing.
Just in that weird slot of time where they're moving away from, film and into digital, and everything was just low.
Yeah, and I mean, like, for a lot of those, AstroRes has kind of been the silver bullet. Because you're right. Previously, if it was native SD digital, then what the fuck are you going to do about it? You're
Yep.
going to attempt an upscale. It's not going to look that much better. So AstraRes has been able to help a lot with those. This stuff is still like, very late film source, some digital components in there. So yeah, it was probably just they weighed their options and realized what they were working with and what they could produce, and this was probably the best they could come up with.
Yeah, it reminds me, even though it's in a totally like different subsect, but how Star Trek is kind of in that vein for Deep Space Nine, and then TNG for a while, because those were filmed like for TV rather than like the older episodes, like from the original series, and then of course now because everything is filmed on like digital 8K cameras and shit. But it was filmed for syndicated television, so to get the Blu-rays as nice looking as they did for TNG, it took hunting down film and painstakingly upscaling everything as best as they could, and it cost millions and millions of dollars. And I don't think they made like nearly enough off of those Blu-rays for all the love that they put into them. And it's one of the reasons why DS9 is always going to be stuck on DVD for the most part, unless someone rolls in with AI stuff. Is that was shot in standard def for television, not shot and then edited down for television.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. TNG had I believe they did shoot on film, but all the effects were done for standard def. So they had to recut everything, and they wanted it in the aspect ratio of modern TV, which they could do because they had enough play on the sides. But they would sometimes have shots where, you have your screen safe area, and then you had a bunch of overscan, and they had that overscan, so they were able to recut. So there was a lot of recutting they had to do. They had to redo all the effects, but at least they had the film. Yeah, nothing in the 90s had that film because everybody was shooting, they were all shooting on tape.
Yeah, that's what happened with DS9, and I think even to a certain extent some of the Stargate shit too is in a similar vein. Fun fact before we get back to the anime stuff, the TNG Blu-rays are really fun in that respect too, because since they then made it 1080p and extended the aspect ratio to 16:9 by 4:3, you can see a lot of their little like fuck-ups right off camera. Like pieces of tape on the floor and like loose doors that didn't close appropriately, but they didn't care at the time because they're like, well, that's not going to be in the shot, so who gives a shit?
I still love the fact that they put in the effort for Next Generation.
Yeah,
I love the fact they went back and re-edited the original series too, and redid the effects for a version of that was a little bit cleaner, brought it up to like next gen levels of that.
Yeah, both the sets look amazing. It's just that CBS didn't. I think they lost an insane amount of money on the TNG Blu-rays.
Oh yeah, they lost so much money, and that was back when discs still sold well, and this lost a ton of money. But I'm still glad they did it.
Yep, me too.
Yeah, okay. So those were the Otakon announcements, basically. And then in the past few days, we've been getting some not so positive news coming out, which is this incredible leak of anime and other media at this point. A lot of it's from Netflix, especially the non-anime stuff. There's a little bit from Crunchyroll, some stuff that doesn't have a licensor yet, just a ton of stuff. We have all of the first season of the new Ranma reboot that was just announced. Those are all out. We've got DeadDeadDemonDedede. Got a few episodes of that leaked, I think. And I think those are both Netflix. Mononoke, the new feature film for that series, was also leaked. I don't think that has any international licensors yet. Also ReZero, the first episode of that, which is, I think, a feature film length episode, got leaked. That has a watermark for Japan Expo, which is the big France convention. So that definitely came from that. Dawn to Dawn is the first 6 episodes, so that's probably like the first half of the season. Every episode of the Netflix Terminator Zero anime, and then some non-anime stuff, like I said, at least some. I don't know if it's all of the second and final season of Arcane was also leaked. I think the 3rd season of Heartstopper getting into live action as well. So yeah, these are all, they have watermarks, they have timestamps, they're very low res, but they are out there, and this is probably the biggest thing like this that has ever happened in anime. So it is quite a big deal.
Yeah, I've been looking at it a little bit over the past few days, and it is rather shocking just how much was released. Because I thought when I first said leak, I was like, oh, is it just like, well, one, the skepticism came up, and I said, oh, is this a quote-unquote leak where it's by the company themselves to draw hype? And then it's like, oh, no, there are multiple episodes. I was like, oh, no, this is for realsies.
Yeah, I don't think the same people are intentionally leaking Mononoke the movie and Heartstopper season 3.
Yeah, and episodes of the Terminator anime, and then all the other stuff that's trying to come out. Yeah. But yeah, it's people are losing their mind over it, which makes sense. It's obviously terrible for business. I think there was something in my news feed today about like Netflix working with Crunchyroll to try and figure out the whodunit portion.
Mm-hmm.
But that'll be interesting to see moving forward. But yeah, it's something that I haven't quite like wrapped my head around in terms of how you even get a hold of those things.
I mean, based on the watermarks, they definitely seem to be insiders who had access to materials.
Yeah, and then just took them and dumped them online, I suppose.
Yeah.
Crazy to me that there are people out there still dumping that stuff.
Yeah, like now of all times. So
yeah, and it's like you can't brag about it for clout. So why are you doing it? Did they pay you? Are you a disgruntled former employee? I mean, disgruntled current employee that's going to soon be a former employee of somebody? It's like, why? What's the point?
It's just so weird because like originally it seemed like, okay, it's all Netflix stuff. It's got to be a Netflix insider. But as more stuff keeps coming out, it doesn't seem like there's any one single common thread between all of it, that the same person would have access to all of these materials. So it's very strange that it all seems to be happening at the same time.
Yeah, that's like what is the thread here? Who are you? What process are you? Are you some kind of like family member of a person who's in a position to scan this stuff for the companies or something? It's like, what?
Yeah.
You try to like wrap your head around who has access to this material and why.
Right. Yeah, it must be some third party that all of these companies are using. And yeah, you're right. It's probably some disgruntled employee or something trying to stick it to the man.
Still wild, especially after the last time any of this stuff leaked and it was like heads rolling everywhere, and this time it's just puzzling.
Yeah.
Did any of the particular things from the leak like bother you at all personally? Like stuff you were looking forward to or anything like that?
I mean, I don't know that it being leaked really bothers me. Like I'm gonna watch it when it comes out anyway. I guess Arcane is probably my most anticipated thing. So it's kind of a bummer that some people are watching some shitty rips of that early. Yeah, it's probably the most extreme.
Yeah, I guess I suppose I'm also waiting for the shockwave, like another leak or something, as well. But I think that's just me craving entertainment. After a certain point,
they do kind of keep coming. Like I feel like there were more like in the past 24 hours. Maybe like Heartstopper was added in the past day or so. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch and see how it plays out, especially now that Netflix is like, heads are gonna fucking roll.
Yeah.
Anything else on the docket?
That's pretty much all I had for news. I'm sure there has been much more considering it's been like a month and a half. But I don't know. I guess it's only been a month or so. Yeah, that's all I got.
Cool. Well, then I guess we can kick it over here into the new season and everything. I know, Kestrel, you have watched significantly more than either Kate and myself, so we'll have a couple things to talk about. But unfortunately, a lot of it is also going to be picking your brain.
I'm going to go ahead and estimate that I'm watching more than you, Kate, DJ, and Brand combined.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a little bit unfair because you already know how much DJ has been watching.
Yes,
and
but considering how much he used to watch,
that's what happens when you stacking that paper to the ceiling.
Yeah, I guess so.
But yeah, the first thing I actually wanted to ask you about is we had touched on it briefly in like previous episodes and just in chats, but I see that you also have dropped the Tower of God second season, or whatever this is, second core or something.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get your opinion on that a little bit because I hadn't started watching it. Just I'm bad with picking up shows that have like long hiatuses like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd heard that one of the things that turned a lot of people off was it felt like artistically super flat.
Yeah, definitely.
Like they really took away a lot of the depth of color, simplified animations, and everything. Because I guess there was, I don't know, and you'll be able to tell me here, if there were some like flashbacks or just like comparisons to the older shows, because it looks like they had done a couple things so you could directly, A/B compare how it looked in season 1 versus 2, and it's very, very clear.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was a big factor or not, or if it was also just not like compelling in general.
Yeah, I'd say probably about half and half for me. Definitely much less visually interesting. Basically everything that set the first season apart aesthetically in any way has just been scrubbed clean. It just looks like every other generic shonen anime now. And yeah, on top of that, the story. So, obviously the first season ended on a pretty major plot twist and cliffhanger. And so the second season is kind of picking up in... Yeah, it's hard to explain, but, it's a very different kind of show now, and the story it's telling and the characters it's dealing with. In kind of the same way that you'd get with, like, Vinland Saga or Promised Neverland, if that got adapted properly. Either way, the way that it did get adapted was, of course, much worse. But, that kind of situation where it's just a totally different show, and I don't think it's been nearly as interesting for the 5 episodes that I watched. And not only do I not care about the characters as much, but the ones who are, like, actively the central characters for the most part are pretty annoying and unlikable, so it's not a great time overall. And it's slowly teasing getting back to the story that it dropped us off on and what's been happening in the meantime and how we're gonna reconnect with all that. But yeah, it just has not been feeling worthwhile, and it was never a series that was like the most important thing to me. So at this point, if I, never see what happens in Tower of God, I'll probably survive.
Did they still have the crocodile guy that everybody fell in love with in that first season?
No, he has not made one appearance.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's already like 2 strikes against it.
Right. Like, what's the point anymore?
Yeah, everybody loved that guy.
Yeah. Now, basically, you're spending time exclusively with new characters, and some version of a character you knew before who is essentially not a character so far.
Is it the blonde-haired lady?
the last episode that I watched actually did give you some more of the original cast of the first season. But I think that might have cemented it because it was like, okay, this is what we've been waiting for. And then at the end of that episode, I was like, if that was what I was waiting for, then why am I watching this show? So
that's a terrible thing to have to ask yourself.
Yeah. So I mean, given the volume of stuff I watch and the mediocrity of much of it, it just didn't really inspire further commitment.
No, that makes sense. That's basically answers all the questions that I had, because it seemed like the general opinion of it was middling at best. So
yeah,
that's the way it be sometimes. Tower of Mid. Nice.
Yep.
All right, well then we can skip around here a little bit to something that's a little bit more enjoyable, but why don't we talk a little bit about Spice and Wolf, since all three of us are watching it, I believe, and I am caught up. I'm actually caught up and didn't think I was, so when Crunchyroll asks if you want to skip the preview, I hit that like 4 times because it kept playing the preview over and over again for the next episode, and I was like, no, next fucking episode.
Yeah,
I need to know what happens with this little fucking shithead.
I think there was not an episode this week, so that's probably why you were confused.
Yeah. I say, you can't leave me hanging. I gotta know how this Amati kid or whatever is gonna be dunked on. He has to be dunked on. I hate him.
Yeah, I'm caught up. I'm caught up with the episodes that have been dubbed. So that was, the last episode I watched was the one where, the episode where Lawrence takes the bet and then comes back, and then Holo has the letter and realizes that, and he does the dumbest thing he could possibly do, which is say, that's not true. Nothing in that letter actually happened. It's like, wait, you knew about this? And it was like, wait a step in it, dude. Like, you could have just been like, oh no, what's in the letter?
Well, he taunted her to read the letter before.
Yeah, which
is also bullshit.
Yeah, but he didn't look at you, like, he hadn't opened it, right? He had just, like, walked away, so he shouldn't have, she didn't know that he knew what the letter said until he was just like, it's all bullshit, and then she's like, wait, you knew about this? And then, yeah. He could have just been like, no, I'm finding out right now, like you are.
Well, I also got a feeling of, Lawrence figured he was banking on that letter saying like, oh, the town's still there. It's all just an urban myth. And I read it as the letter actually says, no, that place has been burnt to the ground. So not only was he taunting her, like playfully taunting her about the letter because, he can be dense, but also he was expecting there to be good news. So not only did he taunt her and she read it anyway, but then she read it and it had terrible news inside of it. So he got a big old double whammy of shit. And that just didn't work out for him at all. And it's always funny how characters like Lawrence, sort of caregivers or kind-hearted people will step in it like that. And then the guys or the covers always something along the lines of like, I didn't want to tell you right away because I wanted to make sure the information was correct. And that never works.
Mm-hmm.
Like, never. Because you should have just told her right away, like, hey, I heard this thing about the town and I'm going to check into it. And then, worst case, it's fake. And it didn't actually happen because word traveled by mouth in those time, periods and everything, like anybody who's ever played a single game of telephone could tell you, words get twisted almost immediately. So, yeah, the fact that he was hiding that the whole time, and then I think that whole episode and the one before it, and then parts of the one afterwards, like preceding and afterwards, are just a series of Lawrence making terrible gambles.
Not reading the room right for a merchant, pretty bad.
Bad. I texted Kestrel when I was in the middle of watching, I think either the latest episode or that one, and I was like, I basically just said I could never make it as a merchant in this universe. It's way too stressful, and you have to think of so many things all at the same time just to make a couple coins.
I get stressed every time I watch Lawrence going through the shit, which is every episode basically. Like, oh man, oh god, it's so stressful.
Yeah, when he
Such
starts
anxiety.
talking about like I'm gonna devalue this by spreading this rumor, and then I'll buy this, and then it further devalues, but then raises the value, and then I'll sell it right at the perfect time so that everything goes up in value except the thing that's not. I was like, how the fuck is this supposed to work? This is killing me.
If you haven't checked out the English dub for that episode with the freak out, go back. Brina gives like a fucking like Oscar worthy performance of Holo breaking down and freaking out, and it's epic and delicious.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely space for one of them there Oscar moments, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and everything.
Yeah,
So
I
I
can't wait till
imagine.
they open the envelope and are like, all right, the Oscar goes to the Crunchyroll English dub of the Spice and Wolf reboot, episode 18. Yep.
It's like she acts the hell out of that scene. It's so good.
Yeah, it's I'm just really enjoying it so far, and I think part of it is because of the stress from the merchant stuff and the show, and just because of that, they're based on the light novels and stuff. Those as well, they don't shy away from the business things. So at times it feels like I'm watching a business simulator,
Yeah.
and then so the contrast between Lawrence in like business mode and trying to be a merchant and talking about that, and you mix that with his relationship troubles, both pseudo romantic and this like platonic and stuff. It gives a nice contrast about where he sits in his life and what he prioritizes and what he's actually good at, and I think that makes it so I never get like bored watching it. And I like that Lawrence kind of sucks at a lot of stuff.
He sucks just enough.
He sucks just enough, and he sucks coming from a good place. Like,
Mhm.
he's not an asshole or anything. Like, especially with this row he has with Hollow, it is from a place where he was trying to do right by her. It's just that is not the way you do that situation, and then the way he handled it afterwards is also bad, but it never feels like he does anything out of like true spite or anything. So it's just watching a guy kind of like fumble around, and he doesn't even know exactly, and maybe he does now, but up till now at the very least he didn't really know what his feelings for her were until shit started getting real.
Mhm.
So it's something that's been really enjoyable to watch. I do notice more and more, and I think I'm veering more on the side of being with you, Kestrel. Here, I'm like, this show starts to look worse.
Yeah.
Like, it's not getting better, especially Lawrence's face. I keep noticing Lawrence's face do weird things in episodes. His head changes shape.
Back and fix anything in quotes post anymore on these series. I know like there's people classically would go back and like touch things up before like disc releases in the past. Do they still do that? Is there any companies that do they still do that?
Yeah, it still happens from time to time.
Yeah, they've done it with like recent examples. I think like DB Super.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
did that, and then they
recent,
did it
that
with
was
like
like
they did that with
9 years
Sailor
ago.
Moon too. I think like the Sailor
Yeah,
Moon
Well,
stuff
Sailor
looked.
Moon was classic because that was yeah.
well, that Dragon Ball Super 2, like episode 4, is just laughable. Yeah, back when Toei did not have their shit together, they were definitely doing some of that. Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a bit in the past 5-ish years, but probably not as much as there used to be. They're all too busy making the next 12 shows.
Yeah, that's just about right, isn't it? Yeah, Kestra, what are you thinking so far? Do you also hope that the little blonde man gets thrown in the trash can?
I mean, I know what happens from both the previous anime and the novels, but yeah, I mean, I agree. Obviously, the characters are very well written. They are realistically flawed despite their best intentions, and in ways that are kind of optimally dramatic for the circumstances they're in and the way that they complement each other and kind of bounce off of each other in less positive ways. It creates realistic and kind of earned drama between them and helps develop their relationship and their feelings toward each other in kind of a gradual way that this kind of story needs to get to a point where you feel like, all right, it makes sense that they have this kind of relationship now. So yeah, I think all the characteristics that embody each of these characters is kind of very well honed for the kind of story that's being told and the way that they interact. And it all plays out really well.
Yeah, I'm super interested to see what happens with Hollow in the upcoming episodes and stuff, because not only was the breakdown scene with the letter really good, but then her behavior afterwards is so peculiar and both sad and incredibly irritating at other times, which is the mark of like a good character for me. Like it's not, she's not acting in ways that bother me because of poor writing. It's what we've kind of learned about her character and how she feels about being alone, and now that she's going through a phase of feeling like, the one person that she considered a close friend has betrayed her deeply, she, at least on the surface, instantly attaches herself to this other guy that shows her a bit of affection and promises to not leave her alone, even though effectively they know nothing about each other. I mean, Amati has no idea who Hollow is, and he's just kind of infatuated with her in that way like teenage boys get, and teenagers in general.
Yeah.
Just get with each other. So what would happen if Hollow were to go with him, and then it turns out Hollow was not a nun, never was a nun, is in fact a god character? Like, there's a lot of stuff happening that I think both characters, their emotional sort of compromises have made this a very precarious situation. And I'm interested if there is anything like Hollow still kind of cooking up, or if she's truly just going through a really, really tough time and is seriously considering going with Amati because he provides her with affection and goods and something that could be considered companionship, even if it feels just like infatuation, which is shallow. But yeah, it's interesting to watch. The one thing that does actually legitimately annoy me about her, though, is the whole, like, every town they go in, and it's funny for me at first, but then I get annoyed and mad for Lawrence because the man just doesn't have a backbone sometimes. When she makes up the stories about, like, how Lawrence, borderline abuses her, I'd be like, man, come on.
Yeah.
Cut the man some slack. Part of the trouble you guys keep getting in is that you basically paint him as an abuser. Like, he's just one man. He can't fight all that off forever. And I think I paint it as that is how she kind of gets around. I know I've mentioned, and we talked a little bit about before, about how she's a god, but she isn't like super arrogant in the same way that like Greek gods tend to be, where humans are just playthings. But I think this is the one section that she still is, and doesn't quite understand the implications of what she does and how that reflects on Lawrence and all the shit he has to go through to fix it while she sits up in the hotel room.
She definitely has a whole, screw it, I'm a god, we can just take off and it'll be cool. And he's like, no, we have to live in a society and you're fucking everything up.
Yeah, you're fucking this up for me. Like,
yeah, I think, Holo is an interesting balance of the kind of ancient divine wisdom and the naivete for human society that comes in being so disconnected from it for so long. So yeah, she does not understand the implications, and that her, cute little ribbing here and there is occasionally very problematic. And yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense that even someone with the eternal wisdom that she has does not necessarily know how humans interact in the modern age, um, because she's never had to. So yeah, it makes sense that these situations arise. It's just too bad that Lawrence has to keep cleaning up after her.
And I wish he would say something. Like he kind of does occasionally. Like he put his foot down when she was talking about what like killing humans was like as a wolf.
Right, exactly.
And that was clearly had an effect on Hollow. Like it made her upset that he was mad, and I just wish he would do that a little more often. Now, would it make the show less entertaining? Potentially. So I understand that a TV show and, entertainment needs to happen, and her being that way supplies entertainment, but still from like a personal relationship standpoint, that would piss me off so much. Kate, do you have anything else to say about the show? How is the dub and everything up to this point? I know I'm not watching it, but I do know that, it's filled with experienced people and the folks who played the characters before and everything. Just probably, I would assume, better because
I
they
heard
get
it's
to
going to
sort
win
of.
an Oscar.
Yeah, that's true.
It, um, the dub is great. The dub is fantastic. Yeah, it's fun going back and listening to like them from however many years ago when it originally came out.
I'm gonna say 20.
20. Yeah, I'm just gonna run at 20. It's not 20. I think it's like
No, it's 16.
16, close, but not
Well,
quite.
you round it up to 20. There you go.
And yeah, it was really funny. Like I had forgotten that Chris Sabat did the voice of like some random dude who we not expect Chris Sabat to be voicing
Yeah,
in the
I remember
original
that
series.
character. Yeah.
And he does it again in this in the new dub too. I was like, oh cool. Like he's voicing that random dude again. It's like this very posh like guild master. It's like what it's just very funny that it's like, oh cool. And I just loved it. I'm like, wow, that's fun. That's fun continuity right there. Yeah, the years of experience and the like I said, the the whole dub just flows so much more natural now. It's still like very dramatic. The whole is very dramatic. But it's I don't know. It's good. You should go back and listen to it. It's good. Um, the funny thing is, it's been so long since I've read the books and seen the original show that I've completely forgotten how this arc goes. Like I'm all like, this is gonna go bad. I'm like, oh yeah, the pirate. I'm like, this is gonna go bad. I can't remember how this goes bad. This goes bad somehow. And then it was like, as soon as he walked back in the room and she was sitting in the window, I'm like, oh, now I remember how this goes bad. Like it's been long enough that I no longer recall like some of the finer like mid like arc stuff that goes on.
Yeah, same, yeah.
So it's been fun revisiting this series and being like, oh yeah, these two. It makes me remember why I like the series.
Mm-hmm.
Wonky off-model animation and all. I think it's a good good adaptation.
Yeah, and to be fair, I've definitely watched shows that look worse.
Oh, I've
And
watched
everything's-
shows that look way worse, but
yeah,
like
so it doesn't really bother me, but I am noticing it more frequently as the show goes on.
It frustrates me because I know what it could be, but at least it is not an adaptation that is so bad it ruins the source material. I can still enjoy it and remember why it's so good in the underlying writing. It's just unfortunate.
yep, Spice and Wolf still good,
Still spicy.
still spicy. Although still frustrating at times. Lawrence is still a dumbass sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
I still love their banter. I like all the economics. And yeah, it is kind of nerve-wracking. It's like, no, don't fuck around with the market. No, what are you doing? No, what you didn't learn the last time you fucked around with the market? Why can't you just play it safe? Nope.
I definitely laughed out loud I think it was the last episode where his stone seller friend, like stone merchant friend, complimented him on being a good merchant. He's like, that sharp brain merchant, it's amazing seeing you work. I'm like, do you know this man? Like, do you actually know him? Because everything we've seen so far is that he's halfway decent until he starts getting a little bit, he starts sitting a little too high on the hog and fucks with the market and starts buying stuff on credit, and then everything goes to hell.
Yeah, you definitely take some risky gambles.
I'm excited to see how it's going to work with this like pyrite trading and everything, because it is over my head.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how they play that part out and where it goes from here. But we can move on then, if that's about everything. I think very, very briefly, you gave it a C+, but Nekotan just isn't hitting for you either, Kestrel.
No, I mean, it's just a meme.
Yeah, it's a meme that's trying too hard.
Yeah, as they tend to do.
Yeah, I picked it up because I heard, of course, on the internet, people are like, this show is a meme and it's hilarious. And then I think I got through like an episode and a half before I texted you and said, this just ain't it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is hard to make a meme work as a full-length television series.
Yeah, I could see it working if it was like half-length episodes,
Mm-hmm.
or if they were long episodes, like somewhat split up into little vignettes or something, so you could kind of hit your jokes in these mini stories to kind of keep the energy up. But since they're whole episodes, man, woof.
The latest episode was, the first half of it at least, was all extremely short vignettes. They packed like 20 of them into like 10 minutes.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I feel like, I don't know if it was from 4 or something, but it definitely had that kind of a rhythm where it was like, here's a few seconds to tell your joke, and 4 shots or whatever. So they have attempted that.
Well, kudos for the effort, I suppose. Yeah, I have one of my coworkers is in love with this show and thinks it's the best thing of the year.
That is all of my friends.
Oh, really? Okay,
yes.
So we also are sharing in that experience?
Yes.
Good. I'm not alone.
They have a thread for it and live watches every week where they all watch it together and comment on it, and yeah, they are obsessed.
Lordy.
Yep.
And I'm sure you like dunking on it probably doesn't add very much to the conversation.
Yeah, I don't talk about it that much because it's like, whatever. Like, they were, of course, similarly appalled that I dropped Pop Team Epic, so, they like their meme shows.
It is what it is. I mean, I'm glad that they're enjoying it.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what I told my coworker too, is like, I'm glad you are liking it. And then luckily that's where the conversation could end, but he's got like stickers on his water bottles already that he got from like Etsy. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Okay, well, I just wanted to touch on that piece real quickly to see if we were kind of on the same wavelength. The only other thing I'm watching this season is I'm not fully caught up with yet, but I'm watching, and I'm just gonna call it Dead Dead Demons because I'm not saying the whole thing. No, I'm not. Nope. That is where I draw that line.
That's the most fun part, is saying the whole title. It's just like,
I'll let you do it
Colin,
for me. I'll say the first half, and you can do the second half.
you got to add more D's every time.
Every time until like 30 minutes of the podcast is just the D sound over and over again. Yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit before, and I don't think you've picked it up yet, but it's definitely interesting. Like, I think there's 9 or 10 episodes, something around there. And I'm about halfway through that just because I haven't gotten around to watching them recently because Hajime no Ippo has been taking up my life.
Nice.
But I don't know if I like it yet. It's keeping me engaged. I just can't tell if I'm enjoying my time, and take that for what you will. Like, I love the character designs. Everybody looks very unique, and it makes it easy to remember names and gives everybody personalities, so it's not just a bunch of palette swaps and everything. But there's just this sometimes like oppressive feeling of like delusional dread that's happening in the show because of just the setting, like this alien invasion, but the aliens actually haven't done anything, so the ship is just floating over the city, Independence Day style, and everybody's desperately trying to like live their lives with this seemingly impending doom, and some people are doing it better than others, and it makes me uncomfortable. Like, I think it's because I'm just constantly waiting for like the other shoe to drop.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm waiting for something to happen. Like, we've had one very important story thing now, or at least it feels like it will be very important given the cast of characters. And I'm like, okay, so this is when the dominoes are going to start dropping. Like, things are going to start happening, and things are going to go off the rails because the government's shooting down alien ships now instead of just letting them float around the city. And we've got some gadgetry going on. And meanwhile, these girls are still just trying to live their lives. And one of them is like an anti-capitalist anarchist, which is fun. And it's so hard to describe because of all the stuff that is simultaneously happening and then not happening at the same, like, at once. I would recommend for sure checking it out. And you said it's by the source materials by whomever wrote Goodnight Poon Poon, or
Yep.
so and I know that you like that, so there's something there for you. I do not know if it's going to get as emotional dreadful as that gets, because I believe you had said is one of the saddest things ever.
Yeah, if you're not depressed already, then he's definitely going for a lighter tone for this one.
I wouldn't say I'm depressed, but there's just like a low-key anxiety throughout the entire thing, all of the time.
Yeah.
And I think it is just the juxtaposition of this alien invasion happening, these people living their lives around it, and that you simultaneously want to yell at them about, like, this is not normal, stop trying to make it normal. But then you also empathize with them trying to maintain some semblance of a life, even though it could end at any moment. And it makes for a tense environment sometimes. And some people do try to acknowledge it, but then they're sort of shouted down sometimes by the people who are either in denial or who just want to be like willfully ignorant and hope that I can just go to college and then I'll move away from Japan or whatever, and it'll be fine. Or it's been 3 years or whatever the time skip is since the aliens first showed up and nothing has happened yet, so maybe nothing ever will happen, so why worry about it? But I would recommend it if only for the uniqueness that it brings to the table. The one character's brother is incredibly handsome and comically obese at the same time, and is voiced by like the guy who does all the bad guy voices, like the deep bad guy voices. Like, I didn't look up his name, but he's just kind of walking around, and I think he's an internet affiliate marketer and conspiracy theorist. Like, I can't fucking figure out half these people yet. But yeah, it's something. it is definitely something. And I think, was Bran looking forward to this, I think?
I can't remember. Probably. I think he liked the manga, so most likely.
Yeah, I want to say that he had mentioned this adaptation before it started airing a while back.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can be on one of these episodes before it's finished for either the season or finished, period. I don't know how long it's supposed to be. I have no idea where the story's supposed to go or what's even supposed to happen because it barely has a plot.
I think it's going to be like 18 episodes.
Okay, so it's roughly halfway through if 18 is like the full treatment. So
Yeah.
there's time. But I would love to get his opinion on it as someone who liked the manga enough to be excited for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I should definitely check it out at some point. I guess when it first started, I expected to hear like amazing things about it, and I heard kind of middling things. So I was like, oh, maybe I don't feel that motivated to try it out just yet. And I've kind of been waiting to hear more, and honestly, I kind of forgot it was getting released because I feel like until now, no one has been talking about it, at least in my circles. So yeah, it's just kind of been surprisingly off my radar given the creator of the source material.
Yeah, I could see how that would be the case. I mean, I don't think it's been particularly like marketed heavily or anything either.
Right. Yeah.
It's just there. So it could be one of those like hidden gems eventually. When the end of the year comes and people are looking back and they're like, "Whoa, this show was actually really good, but nobody watched it" or something. I could see that happening.
Yeah. If I hear at any point that it like lives up to Inio Asano's potential, then yeah, I'll definitely give it a shot.
Yeah, that's about it for me. So, Castro, I know you got some other shows, and I think Kate is also watching. You guys are both watching Slime, right?
Yeah.
Watching Slime.
Oh, well, then why don't you chat a bit about Slime, as that is also a good show, so we can get out of the doldrums.
Slime is Slime.
Yep.
No, actually, we finally moved into the part of the plot where it's not people just kind of talking around a table. It's a little bit more active than people talking around a table, which is good.
Yes. Agreed.
That's about it. Yeah. Slime is tough because it's like practically every other episode they're introducing like 20 new characters, and you're like, okay, we've got an awful lot of people now in this cast, and they just keep growing, and none of these people are dying off, so they're still like relevant, and will be relevant going forward. Yeah, the politicking has moved into a new stage where Rimuru is trying to basically make his own theme park nation.
Yes.
And he gets so in the weeds on his own little pet project of like making a dungeon for people to dungeon in, that he's basically just gone down the DM path and with his friends, and they are doing the equivalent of hiding in the basement and rolling dice and trying to make elves disappear. And like nobody, like, I'm like, are you telling any of your people up on the surface what you've been up to? Because you've been at this for a while.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting season. Feels like not a lot has happened in a different way than not a lot happens often in Slime.
Yeah,
it's interesting. We'll see how it goes in the rest of this core. Obviously,
yeah. Now there's another incredibly broken otherworlder heading in his direction, so that's fun.
Yeah,
I like the fact that they just like speed run this random other dude who showed up and also got stupid, hilariously overpowered powers.
Yeah, I definitely appreciated that. Because ever since Rimuru got reincarnated, we have had, just every cheat code available to him through this system that was just there. And so having that in a third-party character and having them be like the prototypical hero is very amusing, and it'll be interesting to see how they interact.
Yeah, they're both kind of frauds in a way. Like
Yeah.
they're relying on these incredibly broken powers to, like, Rimuru basically has an advisor in his head at all times who's just like, hey, this thing that does say, hey, this, that, and the other thing, and this other character now has like just like the silliest broken power, which basically is like, oh, all your friends are gonna be like way stronger, and also everything just kind of goes in your favor. You're just like, you have the world's densest plot armor.
Right. He's
Go
like
have fun.
he's like King from One Punch Man or Buggy from One Piece. It's a funny trope.
At least he's aware of like how he's not responsible for like literally anything happened to him. He's like, I'm a huge fraud. At some
Yeah.
point, this is all going to backfire on me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely yeah, it's similar to Rimuru because when he started out, he just had all of these incredible powers heaped upon him, and so it's very much the same situation here. And yeah, in this case, it's even more comical because it's basically just the plot warping around this single character. So for him to enter the story with a main character who already has ridiculous plot armor, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all turns out.
Yep. Once again,
Definitely not the strongest season of Slime.
no. But at least it's a nice change of pace of the sitting around a table talking a lot.
That seems to have happened for quite a while.
Yes.
Well, it was like one whole half of the previous season was them sitting around a table, essentially. At least this time they're not around a table, they are out doing other things. Like, Reamer being a complete total dork and geek trying to build a dungeon is way more interesting than people sitting around a table. So,
I guess if you're like into tabletop RPGs, maybe it's more interesting. I've been like, really? We're spending all this time on this? Okay, whatever.
it's like, why? This is gonna come up later. This is gonna come up later, right? There's a reason for this, right?
Yeah, but it's still a fun time. I love the characters and the world, and it's, all very pretty and fun and amusing.
Oh, I do have one complaint, though. Everybody, like, getting all up in Benimaru's business, trying to get him to marry a 15-year-old is not cool.
Yep.
I'm glad that he had...
15-year-old?
Yeah, she is 15.
Oh.
She was, like, in the womb for, like, 300 years, but she's 15. And I don't... They've never said how old Benimaru is, but...
None of them are humans, whatever.
None of them are humans. None of this matters. She's 15 years old. And Benimaru is the only one who is cognitively aware of this fact. He has no interest in this child that he just met. So he's like, please stop trying to hook me up with all these people. And there's like women fighting over him, and he's like, please stop. Please stop.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, you're just a late bloomer. It's like, leave the poor man alone. But yeah, creepy, but at least he was aware of how kind of fucked up that was. So
he was not ignorant of the ick.
He was not ignorant of the ick. And he could just be like, y'all need to stop. Yeah, that's slime. Slime is being slime.
Yep. Our wolves are spicy and our slimes are slimy.
Slimes.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm excited to see how this all shakes out with the hero coming. Mm-hmm. Everyone's like, you're gonna fight the demon lord, the slime demon lord, right? That's why you're heading there, right? And he's like, no, it's not why I'm going there. I don't want to fight him.
It's what Himmel the hero would have done.
That's
Like,
how
I
we should
heard
all
he
live
was
our
a cool
lives.
dude. I don't want to fight a cool dude. Oh.
All right, cool. Well then, glad to know that everyone's still enjoying it. It feels like it's been around for so long now. I mean, it's on the third season, so third season, then what, 6 cores or so?
Yeah. Yep. It is on
It's a
the
pretty
sixth core.
decent time, and maybe it just feels like it's been around longer than it has been compared to other things like My Hero on its 7th season.
Yeah. I mean, Slime anime started in 2018. My Hero Academia anime started in 2016.
How is My Hero? I've heard that the manga is over now. Like that
Yep.
ended?
It ended this week.
For better or for worse?
Yeah, I have no idea about the manga. I've never read any of it.
Yeah, neither have I. My brother even reached out to me. He's like, "So I heard this ended." I went, "Yep." He went, "How is it?" I'm like, "How? I don't know." Why are you asking me? I think I only watched like the first season of the show even.
Oh, really?
So I'm definitely not the person to ask about any of this.
Yeah, I'll say seasons 2, 3, and 6 are very good. Uh, season 5 is oof. Um, we're definitely in the end game. We're in the final kind of battles for sure. Everything is very big, huge stakes. Um, maybe someone will die eventually. I don't know. They keep fake killing characters.
Yeah, has anyone actually ever died?
Yeah, a few characters have died.
Oh, at least there's that. I mean, over
Yeah,
7 seasons, man, you would certainly hope so, given the whole context of the show.
yeah. Given the stakes right now, I feel like surely some more characters have to die, but they've definitely been like faking out killing main characters and then being like, okay, just kidding, we're gonna find a way around that. But yeah, I think we've got another few episodes of this season, and then probably another short 2 core season, 20-ish episodes that'll round out the whole series. So I I haven't been paying too much attention to how people have responded to the ending, but it's definitely better than it has been in its lowest points, and it's certainly uh, getting into high stakes and very action packed, very exciting. So I definitely appreciate it. I don't know that it's ever gonna be like a top tier series again, like I thought it was once. Um, but it's a good time. Yeah, I think that's kind of all I have to say about it right now.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sure the next time I see my one very anime heavy friend, we hang out like once or twice a month, and we'll just go and like get dinner and talk about anime and stuff, and then he ruthlessly spoils everything.
Oh my god, why are you still friends with this person?
Well, because he spoils stuff that I don't really care about, so I just let him go off.
But what about the
Ugh.
day that he spoils something you do care
I
about?
know.
Well, he asks me before,
Oh, okay.
or I'll tell him, be like, "Hey, I started this, so hold off."
Yeah, but you might be interested in this thing later in the future and then have all this stuff spoiled for you.
Nah, I don't care.
Ah,
It's one of those things that if I know how it ends, then it's just one of those I can appreciate it in a different way, seeing how the show builds up to an ending rather than not knowing it. Kind of like why people rewatch stuff and then they're like,
right.
"Oh yeah, there was this, that, and the other." So I
That's
just treat
great
it like
for
that.
that's great for rewatch value, but you're
Well,
still
I also
robbing
never
yourself of the
rewatch anything.
initial experience, I guess.
Yeah, so if you don't rewatch anything, like I don't, like especially TV shows, like I've rewatched movies of both live action and animated, but TV shows, outside of very very few, I've never rewatched them, so it doesn't really bother me all that much. Plus, it's fun having him like spoil something because we'll be in the middle of like the restaurant, and if it's a show he didn't like or something he didn't like to spoil, he just gets increasingly animated and furious as the
So he
conversation goes.
spoils it for everybody in the restaurant.
Yeah, so I'm just sitting watching him like blow up over whatever manga he's reading or something like that. and just kind of enjoying him getting all like worked up into a froth about it. That's part of the fun for me. But I'm sure he will tell me about the My Hero manga in some way, shape, or form next time, which I'll never have an interest in reading it or ever watching it, especially it's way too long for me at this point to care. And now that Castro, you were like, season 5 sucks, I would get to that point and be like, never mind, fuck this.
Yeah, it's kind of a rough one to get through. But season 6 definitely bounces back. Very, very good.
Yeah, that's good to hear, but that's something I'm not particularly great at either, is when people are like, well, if you wade through this trash, on the other side of the trash, it's good again.
It might be better not weekly. It was just kind of rough weekly.
That's true when you can just get through all of it at once.
Yeah, instead of 6 months of your life.
Yeah, you can condense it down and just grit your teeth through the couple hours. But I'm sure I'll hear about that. So where's the My Hero show in relation to the manga? Do you know at this point?
Well, like I said,
is a bunch.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't, read any of the manga, but when the ending was announced, I did some calculations based on the rate of adaptation, and it seems like we should have another 20-ish episodes of content after the season wraps up. So I'm guessing it'll be one more 8th season to finish it up.
One more, one season, one half season, one movie.
Yeah, right. 3 movies.
3 movies, yeah, 3 movies, baby.
Make that
one
money.
A year, so you have to hold on for until the next decade or so to get your.
I mean, the Demon Slayer manga has been over since 2020, so they've definitely made that last.
Yeah, that's for sure. So maybe hopefully they don't take that business model, but we'll see.
Yeah. They've been very consistent so far, and I think every single season of My Hero has ended with an announcement of the next one. So I assume at the end of next month, we will most likely have an announcement of My Hero Academia 8th and final season, or something to the contrary. But I assume we'll know. And yeah, like I said, probably last episode when we talked about how its ending was announced, with it ending, Jujutsu Kaisen is now the second oldest Jump series in terms of manga, which is insane because it's only 6 years old.
I just want to say that Jujutsu Kaisen has the best manga memes for me.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Out of all of them. And they're not even good. I don't even think they're very good, but just seeing like an out of context panel with like Yuji and the bad guy whose name that just slipped my mind, like the main big bad guy that lives inside of Yuji, but it'll just say like, hello my little Jujutsu Kaisen, and it just like fucks with me, and then it'll just be like, hello my little Jujutsu Kaisen, you are my special, and that's it. I don't understand why. I think it's just because the names are like, the Jujutsu Kaisen itself is always something people are like, what does this mean? And then the communities just turn it into something you call somebody. So I don't know, but it gets me every time. So even though I don't know anything about the manga, so I don't have any reference to what's going on in the panel, just seeing it, and it must be some like, I don't know, late stage manga panels or something, unless the art style is just kind of not great all around for Jujutsu Kaisen, because they're like barely above sketch tier.
Wait, so you think that he has gotten worse with the art over the course of the series?
That would be my guess.
Interesting.
In the same way that like Hunter x Hunter gets worse because the mangaka gets more and more unhealthy.
I mean, yes, that is kind of an outlier. Like, generally, if it's someone's first series, then they're real rough at first, and then they refine their style over the course of the years and get much better.
Well, I've also heard that the guy who makes Jujutsu Kaisen doesn't even want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably true.
So then the art style could also suffer because he's just trying to get chapters out so it can all be over.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if it gets worse as it goes on because of that, like of those various factors. But that is reckless speculation, just based off of what I've seen from the out of context meme clips. But
yeah, it's definitely another series that I have not really looked at the manga of at all. But I think, like Demon Slayer and Attack on Titan and many others, I think the anime does some very heavy lifting in improving the quality from the source material.
okay, all right. So I guess Kestrel, is there anything else on the list you want to chat about here? You have a little bit of a variety going on. I've heard the Elusive Samurai is alright.
Yeah. Speaking of heavy lifting on the adaptation, this was one that, like most Jump series that have come out since the Viz Simulpub, I read the first 3 chapters as they came out, wasn't feeling it, dropped it, checked it back out for the anime. Very lush, lavish adaptation. At least at first. I mean, it's still very good, but I feel like the first few episodes, they were just like really trying to draw people in with insanely high quality animation. Still solid aesthetic all around. But yeah, it's from the creator of Assassination Classroom, which at least the anime of that ended up being way better than I ever expected it to be. But yeah, it's like a historical fiction kind of. It's based on like a real event, kind of. Like the main character is a real person who existed. And yeah, it's just about the surviving member of a family who was the victim of an overthrow in 12th century Japan. And his thing is kind of that he's just really good at evading things, and that has led him to survive and find clever ways of fighting more powerful enemies as a result. And he has like a weird priest advisor guy who can see into the future, and so he uses that to help him kind of carve the path of how he can continue surviving and getting through this situation that he's in, and eventually, presumably, combating his foes that put him in the situation. And there's also like the kind of weird comedy that Assassination Classroom also just goes into, but I feel like the baseline story is more serious, so it's a little more jarring. But yeah, it's it's very anachronistic. Like the guy will be like, "Oh, since I can see into the future," and then just pull out some like anecdote from modern times, so that they never have to feel like beholden to actually having relevant things for the time period. He can just be like, "Oh yeah, here's a concept that exists in the 19th century or the 20th century, and I'm just going to pull it out because I can see into the future." So it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like Samurai Champloo in that regard. It's just playfully anachronistic. So yeah, it's definitely the production is a huge part of what makes it worthwhile. We'll see if that carries it enough to get to a point that I care a great deal about the story. Because yeah, so far I'm just kind of waiting it out, see if anything interesting is happening. Because like I said, the manga did not do it for me, and so far the actual storytelling of the anime has not been wowing me either.
Anything else, or maybe we can head on over to some recommendations, even though we kind of already did at the beginning. But...
I will speak briefly on Dungeon People.
Ooh, yeah, Dungeon People. That's right. Apologies.
Dungeon People is pretty cool and a little bit more hardcore than I was expecting going in. Especially from the way they all kind of look like characters that stepped out of Nichijou. They are like even the adults kind of look like kids. Like that art style.
Mhm.
Like, look at these cute characters. Oh, they're cute. Oh, she just sliced that guy's head off.
Oh, so
Oh,
Made in Abyss.
yeah. Well, yeah, and like not to that level. It's just it's it was just kind of like, oh, very matter of fact about the fact that yes, our lead has taken human lives in the dungeon before, and that yes, women are preyed upon by, like, if you're a lone woman adventurer in the dungeon, you're gonna have problems with the men roaming the dungeon. Uh, and she's just an incredible badass. Clay, Clay, is that her name? Clay? No, I can't. Now I'm second guessing. I can't remember. The lead character in that show, she is a total badass. She is great. Um, and yeah, I'm enjoying it more than I thought I was going to be. I was like, oh, I need something to fill the dungeon meshy void, and and it's actually really pretty good. And it also has that like elevating the source material, because I went and looked at the first chapter of the manga on the where it's on the website where it's published, and yeah, they definitely uh, flushed out a lot of what's going on there. So yeah, good elevation of the source material, uh, and yes, her name is Clay. Um, yeah, and surprisingly, like, kind of very. It's got good, solid world building. It's really funny. At one point, Belle, who is the dungeon master, she starts trying to explain like how some of the stuff works to Clay, and every time she does, Clay kind of eyes kind of just glaze over. Like, she's like, okay, and Belle be going, so this is how this soul thing works, and I inject it into this thing, and then this person's this, and then that, and Clay's just like, huh, and she's like, go step, put your hand on that thing, and you're all set. And she's like, okay. um, so good comedy, interesting world building. The two leads are great. Um, I still have a lot of questions about the world building, like why is there a dungeon to begin with, um, and who put these dungeon masters in charge of this situation. But yeah, it's some good stuff. I recommend people check it out if they have access to High Dive.
Are you gonna make sure you watch one series with Dungeon in the title every season?
Um, we can see if there's anything with Dungeon in the title for fall season. I'll get back to you on that one.
I got reincarnated into a sex dungeon.
No, I will not be watching that.
I just made that up, but
Oh, okay. That probably exists.
Yeah,
probably.
that's it was a little bit shocking about of how quickly you just assumed that was real.
Yeah.
Well, there is one where it's like I was reincarnated as a sex worker in another world. I know that's a real one. So
Oh, good news, Kate. There is a fifth season of Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon next season, so
I'm not
you
into
are
that series.
contractually obligated to watch it.
No, I'm not. I'm not into that series. That's more of a beverage type series, and he still will not come on this podcast, no matter how many times I ask him. So.
Yeah, I know
All
that
right.
was one that I wanted to check out at one point too, because it sounded like it was coming from an interesting angle, at least. Of it reminded me of the what was it? I think the PC games were called like Dungeon Keeper or something from way back when, about like building it and
Oh yeah,
everything.
yeah. I know which one. I know which ones you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it was about building and managing it and
Yeah,
all that
you had to
for
snap out of. Yeah, it's very much that in
cool.
cutesy anime form. Well, semi cutesy anime form.
Yeah, somewhat cutesy when it's not busy decapitating people, apparently.
Yeah, or or the like. Um, so yeah, it's good. It's good. It makes me happy. It's good.
Yeah, glad to hear that it's enjoyable. I'll definitely have to check it out then when I get the chance. So, all right. Well, with that being said, back to Kestrels or anything you want to talk about right quick or anything you wanted to put a little spotlight on?
No, if nobody has any questions about anything I'm watching, then I don't know that I need to talk about the rest of it that much.
Yeah, I remember you said this fairy tale is the fairiest of fairy tales.
Yes, it's fairy tale is always the most fairy tale that has ever fairy tailed, and that means it is the most shonen that has ever shonen.
Excellent.
Yes.
A plus.
Yes. If you like shonen tropes, it is nothing but that.
This is
their
the show
purest
for
form.
you.
Yes.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, then I think we can then work our way into some recommendations or anything of that nature. I'll start with Kate, actually, if you had anything you wanted to recommend.
Recommendations. Do I have anything to recommend? I don't think I do at the moment. In between video game releases. So I can't really recommend anything that hasn't come out yet because that would be hypocritical. Not that I haven't done that before, and not that that's not the way I roll on a normal basis.
At least you're open about it.
Yeah. Go pick up some old series of manga. I am currently going through all 30-something boxes of my manga collection because I mistakenly thought that we were going to add insulation to the eaves and was forced to move everything out in like 110-degree heat like a week ago. And so I've been progressively going through all of my old manga collection, and I keep coming across series that I forgot existed, let alone that I owned, until I pulled them out of boxes and was like, oh, look at all this CMX manga I have. Oh, look at this random series from Tokyo Pop that I owned at one point. And not to mention like multiple different editions of various series. How many times have I bought Magic Knight Rayearth? It's more than once. So go back and check out some older series. Dig into some, especially if you're like younger than the majority of the people on this podcast. There's a lot of stuff that's out there and a lot of stuff that's still in print that you can track down that was still good and you can check out. Like, a lot of publishers have very deep back catalogs, and some of these series absolutely never sold out. So you can still find books available. And I still have not found my Gintama volumes yet, Kestrel, but I'll let you know when I do.
Okay.
I know they're here somewhere.
I will take your Mushishi volumes as a consolation.
No, those are staying. Those are definitely staying where they are. And it was funny because Chris asked me if anything was turning yellow, and surprisingly not. Like, not even Tokyo Pop stuff, which is the stuff I'd expect to turn yellow, is not turning yellow. So I don't know what that says about my storage capabilities or just paper is better than paper used to be. But yeah, I did find books that were turning yellow, but those were mass market paperbacks. Of I think that weren't even that old. They were only like 15 years old or something, and I was shocked at how yellow one of those books was. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like my Viz Tonko from 15, 20 years ago, definitely the edges of the pages are pretty yellow at this point.
see, like I was pulling out, like I pulled out some old Viz stuff. I pulled out. Oh God, I found like their Battle Angel Alita volumes, which I didn't realize Viz had published those originally. They were immaculate. They weren't yellow at all. So, and those from way back. I also found that Ghost in the Shell volume, that is the hardcore sex version.
Nice.
Yep,
Nice.
and I can confirm, yes, hardcore lesbian sex exists in that book. So that's going to be an interesting adaptation. That is also the most dude bro book in the face of the universe. I flipped through it. I'm all like, oh yeah, it's all robots, guns, and look at these mostly naked ladies. Or if they're not naked, they're definitely posed in ways that are like, questionable. But yeah, it's yeah, yeah, full color straight up pornography in that book. I'm like, how true to form is this adaptation gonna be?
I mean, I doubt it will include that. But
No, I can't
Masamune
imagine.
Shiro primarily makes full color hardcore pornography, so it's not surprising.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm finding all sorts of weird shit in these boxes. I'm like, I own this, I own that, I own this other thing. But yeah, go back, read some old series. That is my recommendation.
Nice. I mean, I was going to basically bounce off of you and say the same for old anime series. Like, if this is a slow season for you, like it is for me, watch Hajime no Ippo. Because that shit is incredible.
Yeah.
Still holds up, still great, fun characters, very fun, interesting, empathetic main character who's doing boxing while still maintaining a sense of like emotion and sympathy and fun awkwardness, even though he's big and buff and beats people up now. I think he gets paid. No one's talked about it yet. No one talks about how money works. That's the one thing that it doesn't bother me. I just think about like he's winning these professional fights, so I'm assuming he's getting paid. But nobody says anything about checks. But it's really great. So go back and maybe catch up on some of the stuff you missed from previous seasons that was really good, or your backlog. But yeah, that's about it. Or check out, if you want something weird, like I talked about earlier, check out Dead Demons, at least for the experience of watching it, because it's relatively out of the norm. But that's about it.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of recent-ish anime releases to recommend. I think I covered most of the ones from July last time. I don't know if I mentioned the Oshinoko Season 1 Steelbook Collector's Edition. If that is still available, then definitely recommend getting that, especially with second season airing right now. Yeah, that's probably it for stuff that's been released recently. If you have watched every Marvel adaptation ever made, I recommend Deadpool and Wolverine. And I guess in that vein, slightly more accessible and very surprisingly good is X-Men 97, which I finally watched after watching all of the original X-Men, the animated series from 1992. So that is all on Disney Plus. Yeah, I don't know that I have anything else to strongly recommend at the moment.
Yeah, that 97 series looks good. For sure.
Yeah.
I really like the art direction that they took in it. Glad to hear that it's actually good and not just good from nostalgia or, kitschy type way.
Yeah. No, it does a very impressive job at balancing maintaining consistency with the kind of, cheesy 90s Saturday morning cartoon with very serious topics that it's dealing with. And it gets very intense and very captivating. It's probably the best thing Marvel Studios has done in years, if not ever. And it's like their one thing that is not related to the MCU. And it's especially impressive because they have such constraints to work in to make it fit with this 90s series that none of these people worked on. And there were very different standards and expectations back then for that target audience. So being able to make something that is so much better than the rest of their output that does not have that kind of constraint just makes it that much more impressive. So yeah, very, very solid production.
It's like I don't want to pay for like Disney, but I do kind of want to watch the X-Men
Yeah.
because I was around for the original series and I did watch the shit out of it.
I was technically around. I was born the year it started. Let's see exactly when it started. So it started in yeah, I was like 7 months old when it started.
Uh,
Yep.
don't quote the old ways to me. I was there. The yeah, I'd have to go back and rewatch like the original series, and that would be painful. But to like be like, oh yeah, well, it did do kind of like a kind of half-assed read. I don't know. I kind of remember
It,
I kind of remember what happened. Kind of maybe.
it's definitely a mixed bag, as you might expect. But on the whole, it does hold up much better than I expected. Some of it not so much, but in general, yeah, I was.
I mean,
kind of
nothing from that time period is anywhere close to Batman the Animated Series in
Exactly.
quality.
That's exactly
So
what I was about
Yeah.
to say.
it's like that was kind of unique, and most of the stuff that was coming out of the Warner Brothers TV animation stuff was really solid. Like, so yeah, everything else was kind of not gonna hold a candle to anything of that. But
Exactly.
yeah,
And
but
on that note, I wish I could recommend this, but I haven't watched it yet. I'm hoping to get around to it this weekend. There is so both of these series, they are, animated Saturday morning Fox Kids adaptations of, a couple of the biggest franchises from DC and Marvel respectively, right? They aired they started in September of 1992 and October of 1992, respectively. And X-Men 97 just came out in the past few months. That is, a modern revival of X-Men the Animated Series. And just this past week or so, I think a week ago, we got a kind of revival-ish of Batman the Animated Series in a modern way. It's much less like a direct continuation where X-Men 97 is exactly that. It's just kind of like a new Batman animated series by Bruce Timm that he describes as like what he would have done with that series if he didn't have to worry about standards and practices. So yeah, hopefully that is good, because I'm going to be disappointed if it's not.
good things about that. So hopefully it is good.
Yeah. I assume it will at least be a step down, whereas X-Men 97 was decidedly a step up from its original.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, we don't have Kevin Conroy around anymore.
Oh yeah,
so
God, it's so rough.
oh, what a punch in the face! And because he's not around, Mark Hamill won't do the Joker anymore. So it's like, yeah.
And not that she has been voicing Harley Quinn for most of her existence, but Harley Quinn was, of course, both a character invented for the animated series and specifically based on her original voice actress, who died not long after Kevin Conroy. So that was a rough 1-2 punch there.
Yeah. Well, now that's a downer. Let's pull back up. Yeah. Go watch some good cartoons and read some good comics. There's our recommendation.
Yeah.
I mean, you can never go wrong with that, so.
No.
All right, cool. Well, with that all being said, as usual, Kestrel, how about you let everybody know where you can find us and where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find us anywhere you find podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review. We are on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and YouTube Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Alexa, Amazon Music, Facebook Music, podcast, whatever they call it, and fanpost.com. And you can also find us on social media on Facebook and Twitter at Fandom Post Radio. You can follow us there, share our stuff, get in contact with us. If you want to get in contact with us without the hellscape that is social media, you can email us at fandompostradio@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at FullMetalKyoma. You can see the picture that Hiroshi Nagahama drew for me, like 26,500 other people have for some reason. And you can look forward to my interview with Hiroshi Nagahama that I transcribed last night, so I should be able to write a little bit about that tonight and post that shortly. Also, at Otakon, I interviewed Yuki Hayashi, who is the composer for Haikyuu and My Hero Academia. So I will be also transcribing and posting that in the next day or two. The director, writer, etc. of Look Back that I interviewed at AX, that is still in approvals, so no ETA on that, but hopefully that'll be up before too long as well. And for people who don't know, Hiroshi Nagahama is the director and writer of all the Mushishi anime, and the upcoming, finally has a release date, hotly anticipated, innovative adaptation of Uzumaki. So, yeah, that'll be good. And he is just, in general, the best guy in every way.
Nice. I mean, after watching Mushishi, I can only agree.
Yes.
Best guy, every way.
Yes. Absolutely.
All right, Kate, how about you?
You can find me at thefandompost.com, where I am reviewing that time I got reincarnated as a slime season 3. I am reviewing Dungeon People. I am reviewing a ton of manga and light novels, a ton being a ton for me. But we have a bunch of other reviewers. You can come check out their stuff too. And if you can't find me on there, you can track me down on Blue Sky. Get off the hellscape that is Twitter. The platform formerly known as Twitter. That's it. That's me on the internet. I'm in other places too, but you can track me down. I have the same screen name everywhere.
I'm also reviewing Oshinoko second season every week. Forgot to mention that.
Nice. And as always, you can find me right here. No social media or anything really worthwhile to speak of in that standpoint. So it's here or nowhere at all. But, yep, as always, thanks everyone for listening. Enjoy the shows you are watching this season. If you aren't watching many, take the opportunity to check out some oldies but goodies, or maybe just from ones from last season or so. But until our next episode, everybody stay safe and enjoy.
See ya.
Bye.